I genuinely have no idea how this is going to go, so we'll find out together. Apologize for the noise in the background. I have currently, my printer is running and I don't want to stop it. So this is a teardown video for a Recon 500 from Turtle Beach. The reason that I want to tear down this particular headset is that the driver is very useful for making a very particular set of in-ear headphones, or over-ear headphones, closed backs, called the Ouroboros by Capra Audio. This here is a bit of a meme cup, but the one I'm actually making with this is a more traditional Ouroboros, which is supposed to be a very good closed back. As you can see, this is a used Recon 500. It's pretty gross, actually. I'm glad I'm not going to be using those cups or those ear pads for anything. We start by taking those off. Pretty easy. They just a basic ring seal. Those will go in the garbage. We're left with a bunch of interior screws that have to come off in order to get to the driver. The driver is this piece here. Getting my handy dandy Fantic. And I think I need a little small Phillips head. Turn that around. I think that's probably the right size. You want to make sure you get fine enough thread that it'll go in, but thick enough that it will get good grip. And that is not going to work. One bigger. There's not a lot of catch on that. We'll set that aside. Maybe that'll end up working. We'll try the slightly thicker one. Yeah, I think that's probably the right one. So we're just going to back out all of those. Maybe that is too big. Oops, sorry. Pull them out. Because there's a mesh in front of the speaker, I'm not so worried about it. You do want to be careful you don't let anything metal fall too close to it. If it gets pulled into the driver, it will actually damage the driver. Or can damage the driver. And that's not the end of the world, but it is unpleasant. And that is the wrong size. Try to make sure we get all the way into the threads. I'm going to have to come back to that one. Oop. You know what? That might be too powerful. I like the electric screwdriver. I also find that it is occasionally a little bit too strong. It's hard to get in really into the latch, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my little iFixit screwdriver kit. If you don't have one of these, they're really great. They're not cheap. They are really excellently made. And yeah, I can get in and get enough pressure to be able to pop that open. So I'll set the screwdriver to the side in case I need another one. So we're going to go ahead and remove all of these screws. I mean, if you really want to, you could break the band off now, just to not have to deal with quite as much crap. But yep. So this will come out because we don't actually want any of the wires, and we don't want to pull them off. We're going to be removing them much more carefully. I'm going to grab a pair of tin snips. I'm just going to snip that, set that to the side. I mean, the biggest downside of this particular headphone build is just the sheer amount of waste you get from having discarding all of the other pieces of this. You used to be able to buy these drivers on AliExpress, and they were pretty inexpensive. Like, I want to say 10 or 15 bucks a pop. It's no longer possible. It's the only way really to get these is to salvage the Recon 500, which is not, again, a great use of resources, but there's so many of these on eBay for, 20 or 30 bucks. A lot of them will end up in the landfill otherwise. We're just repeating what we did on the other side, which is just snipping that, setting that aside. I don't feel quite so bad about this because I'm pretty sure no one is ever going to buy or use this headset again. So, yeah. Set that to the side to be properly disposed of later. These don't have internal batteries. They're passive. They plug into a device like a controller, so I'm not so much worried about the waste. Not as worried about the waste. So now we're left with these drivers. I'm actually going to grab a little screw set. These are actually maybe self-driving, and they are pretty small. I'm going to go ahead and just drop them in the 16 bucket here, just so I don't lose them. I often find myself wanting small self-driving screws, which you can see these have a pretty thin tip. So in a 3D printed object with an imprecise hole, these may be able to drive themselves in. So I think I'll hold on to those. I really love this screw sorting tray. You'll see this later in the video. So now we're left with the actual drivers. I'm just going to do one to show you how this works. So that's how it snips. 4 screws around the edges. This is the part where we want to start being careful. We really don't want to damage the driver itself. They're not like incredibly fragile, but they're also not the strongest thing in the world. And if you dent the plastic on the outside of it, it's going to be a pain to fix it if you can. So I'm going to go through and remove all these. When I get to this last one, I'm going to hold onto the device here just to try to make sure I get so it doesn't fall. I don't care so much about the back side of it. That's not the part that's going to get damaged, but still, we try to be a little careful. Go ahead and put these in 15 just so they are out of the way. I think a lot about the screwdriver is that it's slightly magnetic, which means that as long as you're not working with like a computer hard drive, it's pretty good for picking up screws. I have discovered over the last couple of months that I have strong feelings about small precision hand tools, and I really do like this set. These are a little finicky, that's okay. At the end of the day, you don't actually care about these screws. They're really just, waste not, want not. And then you can go ahead and very carefully, well, maybe not so carefully. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I'm going to grab a pair of fine needle nose pliers. These needle nose pliers are made by Knipex, and they are absolutely fantastic. They're a recommendation from my girlfriend, and I do not regret them in the slightest. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of pressure under each of these. We're not worried about flexing the driver here because it's the assembly that's flexing. You'll see that when I get in there a little bit, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But it's not so much it's not the part that I care about that really it's flexing here. And you'll be able to see there's a fair amount of glue that I'm trying to get loose from here. So we're going to very carefully open this up. This piece, again, goes to the garbage, or recycling, however you want to deal with it. So now we're left with the driver. This is the part that we actually want. We want this circle here, which you can see on the other side behind this grill. This grill is pretty protective. I'm not worried about it yet. And I'm not going to pull that off until I'm ready to start assembling because I don't want that to get damaged. The soft plastic underneath, the sort of ring pattern underneath it is what I care about. This is actually a giant pain in the ass. I have been told that if you have a heat gun, it's really much easier. I don't have a heat gun. I was going to do this in the makerspace to have access to one, but I, didn't have the time tonight. So I'm going to be very careful. The problem with this is that there's a thin layer of glue all the way around this. And so I'm going to take a utility knife and I'm going to very carefully cut all the way around this. Being very careful not to cut to my thumb. We don't actually care about any of this wiring, so I'm not going to be worried about cutting it, but I am still going to try to, I'm not going to cut towards my thumb. I'm going to try very carefully not to damage anything inside, anything that is black. This black rim here is the actual driver. This paper matters, it's acoustically important. We'll try not to screw up anything else. And so I'm going to just very carefully work my way around. This is, as I said, really a pain in the butt. Again, be very careful not to cut towards your fingers. This is a good way to hurt yourself. And we're going to go all the way around. It starts getting a little harder on the edges. The way the driver sits in the frame is slightly canted. It's cockeyed, but it means that it's actually the speaker itself is a little farther down once you get towards the back. So very carefully. I strongly recommend a fresh utility knife blade for this. I just replaced this yesterday or the day before. I'm trying to get all the way down. Again, I don't care about this wire, so I'm going to go ahead and actually just pull it up. Okay, I am very carefully going to try to get in between here and the frame and start pulling that way. And periodically I'm going to see if it's starting to get a little looser. You probably shouldn't do this with an X-Acto knife, just because it could, in theory, break. But I am doing just a little bit. I'm trying to make sure that I don't care about this white plastic. If I can actually break that white plastic off, that's, you know, so much the better. Gets that out of the way. Probably not going to be able to cut all the way down, but I can at least provide a little bit of a notch there. Will help me get underneath a little bit more. Oh, that's why you don't use X-Acto knives as a prior. And grab the other advantage of the iFixit kit is that it gives you a variety of tools for doing this kind of work. And this is a much better version. So I'm being careful to not only get the edge of the black plastic. I'm not getting down into I'm not pressing the black plastic. I'm levering underneath it, but not too far. So I'm not actually putting any pressure on the front side, the part of this that I care about. I am very carefully cutting around that. Again, we'll get through the lever. See if we can get in there a little bit. I would imagine that I will probably cut a lot of this out. Yeah, see, I'm starting to get a little bit of flex. I'm being very careful not to get past the sort of the black rim on the bottom of this. When I take it out, you'll be able to see. So see, I'm caught right underneath that ledge, but I'm not bending it over the edge there. Take this, and I'm just gonna cut a little bit of the glue that I can see. Yep, see, now I'm starting to get a little bit of leverage on it. Again, being very careful not to go past flat. You can see the glue fits there. And start to get that underneath. Slide it in one more time. And give it a little bit of twist. And there we go. This is the driver. The driver is removed, which is great. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the excess glue around the outside. This black piece, this black plastic rim will become will remain part of the driver assembly. So I'm going to make sure I keep that. You can see there's a little bit of scratching that's outside black plastic. I don't think the black plastic on the outside is particularly acoustically significant. So I'm not so much worried about the little scratches there. I do want to make sure that I don't touch this thin, semi-transparent plastic is the part that you care. That's really part of the driver. If you ding it, you'll have to very, very carefully spring it back out. And while you can do it, it's not something I would want to do. And it is a big old pain in the butt. And if you need to do that, go find something on the internet that's going to help you figure that out. So as you can see, I'm being very careful not to put my fingers on the inside. I will continue to do that. It's not the end of the world if it happens. I mean, it will happen. The thing about these drivers, having to dig them out of Recon headphones, you will just sometimes ruin pairs. I have a couple of extra sets arriving next week to help me do just to have backups. In part because I would like to be able to do a little driver matching. These sounded like they were pretty well matched in the original Turtle Beach, but also the sound wasn't great with it. So this is the driver. Next step, once I get the other one off the cup, is going to be removing a bunch of the wiring and this capacitor here. I'll be back in a minute.